Welcome back to AI Business TV here in New York. I'm Ben, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Shri from Mil5. Shri, how's it going?
Good, good. It's been a wet kind of couple of days, but it's great to be here.
I know it's not as magical when when the sky is pouring, I must admit.
That's right.
Shri, tell me a little bit about Mil5.
Sure. So we're a consulting company. We're based in Boston. We've got multiple locations. We've got a couple of teams working in Colombia, in Medellin, and in Bogota, and we've got a couple of teams in Argentina as well. And since the last time we spoke, we actually now have a team in India as well. So we're kind of expanding. The business is good. Customers are realizing what they can do with machine learning and big data and such, and it's becoming a reality in the past couple of past couple of years. So it's a great time for Mil5.
That's great to hear. I'm glad that you've had that opportunity to expand over the last 12 months, and we'll come on to the conversation with last year, which was with the wonderful Richard. So just to kind of give us an overview, what kind of consulting services do you actually offer then?
So, we're an end-to-end strategy / consulting firm, right? We help companies kind of strategize on where they need to be as a business, what kind of KPIs they're going to be achieving over the next, quarter, half year, full year, and we're working with their team and making sure that, we're either augmenting their team, to build those solutions and to make sure they're successful in their business, right? So we've got three major pillars for Mil5. The first one is consulting services. This is where we go do traditional software development, machine learning and AI, and that includes dealing with data, sourcing data, doing the data engineering part of it, feature engineering, data science, and so on and so forth, all the way to putting it into production, right? And then we've got performance engineering, which is more about, hey, how do we take your data or your products and then move them to the cloud? So this is more about, moving it to the cloud, making sure we're able to facilitate, load testing, stress testing, DevOps, MLOps, which is a huge portion of being successful in machine learning projects. How do we make that happen, for your organization? And then there is MSP, which is the managed service provider stuff. We're not, a ticket desk or anything like that, but, as you build your applications, and as they morph and evolve, they're an older set of applications that need to be, that need to have their lights kept on, right? That's where our MSP teams come into picture. We do this primarily out of Latin America for budgetary and cost reasons for organizations and our clients. So they're able to hand over some of those assets to our engineers who do some minor feature enhancements, bug fixes, and so on, and make sure that those applications are working the way they're expected to in the regions that they're expected to work in.
I want to delve into that AI aspect a little bit more, Shri. Where does AI kind of fit into what you kind of do a little bit deeper? But also, what are the kind of companies that you're kind of working with in that space?
Yeah, sure. So we've got a lot of clients doing a lot of different types of AI. Some of them have heard about AI, right? But they don't know where to get started. All the way to the ones that actually have models in production right now, and they want to know where to take that next, right? How do we have a process that satisfied governance and compliance needs, in different regions of the world, right? So what our teams do is we start with process. We make sure that we have a repeatable process for the client where they're able to say, this business metric, check, done, right? So we start with the data first, making sure that we're able to source the data correctly, making sure that we're able to shape the data correctly, and standardize it for the data scientists to pick up, run their experiments, do their training in a repeatable fashion, and come back and say, well, this is what we have, is it good or not? Selecting the right candidates, choosing the right tool sets, the architectures. This is all stuff that Mil5 has done over and over again. So for us, it's, I don't want to say it's cookie cutter, because that would just trivialize the thing, but it's something that we've seen across various industries, across various verticals. So we bring specialists in, when we do engage in a project that understands that landscape really well, and then takes that to the next level.
So one thing I'm keen to understand is kind of success rates, right? Everyone's doing AI right now.
Right.
How do you guys come in and kind of improve those companies that are wanting to do AI more, get to the successful rate that they actually want to achieve?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? It's astonishing that 80% of all machine learning projects fail, right? These are numbers that you see in traditional software, but to see it in machine learning, it's just It's a large number. And that happens at different stages, right? In a process. It starts with having your leadership, kind of buy into, and back what you're trying to achieve. To making sure that the right data exists, because a lot of people are still, a lot of our clients, when we start engaging with them, they're at a place where they don't know what data to use to make their models work. So, and sometimes they may not have the data, and sourcing data is an expensive kind of ordeal, right? We have clients who paid millions and millions, like tens of millions of dollars to gather the data that they need for their data models that, is still not enough, right? So success starts with making sure that you have the leadership backing to make sure that what you're doing is something that the company really is behind. Then it's going and getting the right data and setting the metrics of what you want to achieve. Picking the right data, creating synthetic data if necessary. We've had clients where we need, I'm going to get a little geeky here, but we needed to open up Unity and actually create a walk space and a workspace for some retail clients for them to be able to understand, well, okay, in the lack of real data, this is kind of the movement that happens within our space, and this is what the machine vision project should be looking at. So picking the right data is super important. Having your data scientists aligned and in constant communication with the SMEs, the subject matter experts from the business side, is very, very critical, because what you want to do is build a solution that is required and not be in the vicinity of what you're trying to build. And then it's going to production, making sure that you're talking to your software architects, you're talking to your IT architects, they're all in the loop of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And to have that fabric that's connecting all of these folks, right, which is what MLOps is, to be able to make sure everyone understands it, and once it gets into production, are you going to do high availability? Is it going to be disaster recovery enabled, right? What are the costs around it? It's huge, right? So you got to check off all of these boxes, have a good process and have a good fabric and MLOps in place for you to be successful.
And that way as well, having that interconnectivity between teams, that way you're going to get more kind of responsible uses of data as well.
That's
which
exactly
is a huge
right.
thing. Is that
That's exactly
something you guys are seeing at the moment?
Very much so. So making sure that you pick the right training data and the testing data is super important, and that's where you filter out things for ethical AI, for making sure that you don't have any biases in your data and so on. That's a very crucial step while you're selecting data and feature engineering it.
So is that something that you see being kind of the main focus for AI in the next few years, Shri? What are you kind of looking ahead for the next couple of years?
Yeah, so it's good that that seed has been planted, so people are looking at it, as organizations become more transparent, as laws and governance routines are becoming more ubiquitous. That is definitely a big portion. But there's a lot on the technology side of things too. I mean, I can talk about quantum computing, but I think, honestly, it's about 10, 15 years out, right? For today, through the next few years, there are things like the new NVIDIA Hopper architectures and the Ampere architectures that are super crucial, right? Once upon a time, when you had data centers, that you were hosting and not in the cloud, if you had an application that you wanted to build, you'd go and get an 8-way for you and then start to run your application. Then, IT would, look under the hood and, you're using only 30% of, the entire utilization. The same thing is happening with AI right now, right? With computers becoming smaller, the rack space becoming smaller, compute running at the edge where data is, you have less options on what you can run and how much leeway you have on that box. So density is a huge problem that we're trying to solve, and with the likes of our partners like with NVIDIA, where Hopper architecture, you're able to slice it up into parallels where you're able to run multiple models in parallel on the same GPU. It increases the density and the best capabilities of those chips, with CUDA 12 and the future, right? That's where we see the industry kind of moving towards, is increasing the density, increasing compute, running machine learning models in parallel at the edge or in the cloud or on-prem, wherever you're running it.
No, I have to agree with you, and it's interesting you brought up the Hoppers, because the H100 Tensor GPUs, they're just going to do some incredible stuff next year.
Absolutely.
And I think it's really going to kind of drive that data usage and drive those inferencing speeds up and up and up, right?
Absolutely.
But one thing that I'm also interested in gauging is what's going on at Mill 5 next year.
Yeah.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, I sat down with Richard last year, and you can go and watch that on AI Business, of course. But I'm speaking to yourself. You've expanded to India this year. What's in the pipeline, Shri, for Mil5 for the next 12 months?
Yeah, it's we still see that organizations haven't matured completely in their MLOps cycle, so we're investing heavily in that. The CUDA 12 kind of tool set from NVIDIA isn't released yet, but we know what's coming out. We're gonna see a massive adoption of that technology just because of what it can do in the HPC kind of route, as well as MLOps, or I'm sorry, machine learning and AI capabilities. So we see our muscle growing in those areas: MLOps, model building, targeting CUDA 12, targeting Hopper, targeting Ampere, and the future chips that support that capability.
It's an exciting year ahead, and hopefully we can sit down next year and talk more things Hopper. I think that'd be really good. But
absolutely,
Shri, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.